crypto is a huge problem for governments. Governments can control, ideally, cryptocurrency. You can't freeze someone's personal cold wallet with crypto in it if you don't like what they say. So what does this have to do with the collapse of FTX? Well, it turns out that Sam Bankman-Fried's girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, has a lot of connections to regulators. In fact, the biggest regulator of all in this country. Her father, Glenn, is an MIT professor who worked at that university alongside, drumroll please, Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, which is in charge of cryptocurrency regulation.
We are going to get into some more details and more footage of Tucker Carlson going on that, deranged rant. None of the things he's saying actually make any sense, especially what he just said right there, which is, okay, so Sam Bankman, his girlfriend, her father was a colleague of this guy who works for the SEC. Therefore, the people who ran FTX want government regulation of cryptocurrency. That makes absolutely no sense at all. So
yeah. Oh, sorry.
No,
I
go
just
ahead.
can't help but jump in.
Yeah.
Yesterday we just did the story of how Sam Bankman-Fried admitted to a Vox reporter, oh yeah, I didn't want regulation at all. I was obviously lying to try to build up my reputation. Yeah, you know how we know that? Because $8 billion is gone because there is no regulation of FTX. Tucker Carlson, amazingly, is then turning around and going, well, wasn't that great? There was no regulation, so they got to steal $8 billion. So you see how that proves there should be no regulation. I mean, that is so stunning. It doesn't make any sense at all, let alone the weirdo white zombies behind him who are obviously ready to attack. Okay, all right, sorry, Jessica, back to you.
No, let's fill in some of those details because clearly Tucker Carlson does not know what happened there. So this is reporting from Decrypt, which does a lot of crypto reporting. The FTX liquidity crisis began to come to light on November 6 when Binance CEO Cenk tweeted that he was going to liquidate all of Binance's FTT holdings. FTT is FTX's native token due to recent revelations that FTX was lobbying against other industry players behind their backs. The tweet caused a bank run as FTX customers piled in to pull funds off of the exchange. A whopping $6 billion exited FTX over 72 hours compared to the tens of millions in withdrawals ordinarily handled on an average day. So the meltdown was made worse by people trying to pull their funds off of FTX, and then they found out that they weren't there anymore. So Jake Thacker in Portland, Oregon, who used FTX said, I went in, looked at where some of my account balances were. It didn't seem to be right. Everything was frozen. There were all kinds of error issues. I was definitely in freak out mode. Another devastating story from an FTX user, Nick Howard, didn't think he was making speculative bets on crypto. He worked for an overseas startup video game company that he said preferred to pay him in a cryptocurrency called USDT that's supposed to just match the value of the US dollar. So now these cryptocurrency trading platforms have decided that they're going to take on the role of the bank and have these kinds of coins called stable coins that keep or are supposed to keep a one-to-one trading value with the dollar. We found out back in spring when the crypto market crashed then that they don't. And so that's why we need regulation, is because you are not a bank. You need to be insured like a bank because now people are losing their money, like Nick Howard. He said, they were like, we suggest you use FTX. That's a well-known high-profile company. They seem to be really good, really stable. He says he had $16,000 worth of paychecks still in his account on FTX when it imploded at 33 years old. He said that was about half of all of the savings he had.
Oh, man.
So how large in scale is this issue, you might wonder? About $8 billion deep. So Charlie Gerstein, who's a class action attorney who's handled crypto cases, said the company is short $8 billion. And there's only two conceivable categories of explanation for what happened to that $8 billion. The first is they traded it in speculative investments and lost it, or they stole it. But still, Tucker Carlson doesn't think we need to regulate this. Let's watch the last bit of that.
So this thing swells to unsustainable size and inevitably implodes. It collapses, and that collapse is used for a pretext to do what they've been planning to do all along. So it probably shouldn't shock you that right after FTX's collapse, every major bank in this country announced a new partnership with the New York Fed to establish a new digital currency. Oh, digital currency, the one they can regulate and control. Citigroup, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, HSBC, all working on a 12-week digital dollar pilot. The Fed describes this project as a regulated liability network. So what does this mean long term? Well, if they have control of your money because it's digital, you can't stash it under your bed. If they don't like what you say, they can turn it off and you're impoverished.
That is exactly what happened with FTX. People lost the money that they had put in with deposits, and Tucker Carlson is saying, we can't regulate this because you should all keep your cash under your mattresses. That's Tucker Carlson's plan.
Yeah, he's not even trying to make sense anymore.
No.
I think, and it's not that he's a dumb guy. We've talked about this a lot of times, many times, because he very clearly has strategy, and you can see where the strategy is going. It's very directed, etc. He's just come to the conclusion that his audience won't understand anything, right? He could just tell them anything. He's like, now we lost $8 billion here of your hard-earned money because there was no regulation. So you see why we need no regulation at all. And his audience is like, yeah, that makes sense, okay? And then what was that second part? They're gonna turn it into digital dollars. And that's why we need to make sure that we have crypto unregulated. Crypto's digital dollars. And as Jessica pointed out, that was the problem in the first place. But it's not that the digital dollars are an issue. You have dollars of every variety. And by the way, even if the Fed creates digital dollars, which in essence they already do, how do you think they actually printed the $4.5 trillion they gave to the corporations during COVID? No, it's digital dollars, right? But they also have money. So, and how would crypto, which is purely digital dollars, help you with money you could put under your bed? It would do the exact opposite. But again, logic not required. And Tucker has made the decision that his audience doesn't understand a goddamn thing. All he has to do is get them to be angry and then go, now remember, corporations should never be regulated. Our beloved corporations should be allowed to rob you anytime they like. No, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So look, I appreciate where you guys are going. There's a huge sports perspective from this as well. I don't know if you guys know about this, but the Miami Heat signed a deal with FTX in 2019 for naming rights. That was a humongous deal because it was one of the first of its kind aside from Crypto.com, Staples, it's still called Staples in LA. Regardless, people are curious about like what's gonna happen with sports, with athletes. There were a lot of notable athletes who were endorsing FTX as well, like Stephen Curry, Tom Brady. They endorsed and served as a advertiser, you could say, with Lewis Hamilton and Team Mercedes in Formula One. Like this is massive in the sports world. But ending on a high note here, not to make this sticky, but there was another company that said, we will throw you the same offer we did in 2019 to the Miami Heat. And I don't think they're contemplating it, but it is an idea because they did it once before. It is the adult film site Bang Bros.
Oh my God.
So I kid, Edwin knows. So like this is a thing that could potentially happen. Do I think it will? No, but to recoup losses very quickly, considering that they're already mid-season, FTX already filed for bankruptcy. What do they do to recoup those funds? That is technically something the Miami Heat can do. And no, if you're a Heat fan, they're not gonna sell players or anything like that. Like Miami-Dade needs to make up the funds, that's all.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about Bang Bros, but it makes sense because they shoot in Miami, and so that's why they would go for the Miami Heat. Anyways,
wow, okay. That went full circle.
Crypto.com is the name of the new Lakers
where Staples
arena.
Used to be. Yeah.
What Staples used to be, that's what Ricky was referring to. And by the way, when I saw that it was renamed, which I hadn't seen until I was actually in the area, I was like, oh, that's not gonna last.
Same, yeah.
Right, and here we are. But I want to say one more point about the regulation. Sam Bankman-Fried gave a ton of money to corporate Democrats in primaries against progressives. In fact, he gave against one of our hosts. Nina Turner was running in Ohio against Chantel Brown, and he worked very hard to defeat her because Nina Turner is honest, and Chantel Brown was like, yeah, you need unregulated crypto, no problem. By the way, none of those Democrats that took money from him have been held accountable. It was super obvious corruption, and in that report with Vox that we shared with you yesterday, And they're like, well, you said that you were giving money to Democrats because you believed in regulation. He's like, no, that was an obvious lie. He's like, no, of course I didn't believe in regulation. We were unregulated and I wanted to keep us unregulated. I was just doing that for PR purposes. So the bottom line is they never wanted regulation. You know why? Another word for regulation is laws. You know who doesn't want laws? Robbers. Okay, robbers don't want laws and they don't want cops. And so here's Tucker Carlson doing a segment going, oh, those goddamn cops. You know what? We should defund the police when it comes to Wall Street and corporations. And that's what he's saying in regards to white collar criminals like Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, a lot of the endorsements that Rick was just talking about, they're now suing FTX themselves, which is interesting because Kim Kardashian got sued by it was, I think, a class action type lawsuit, but she was sued for her endorsement of cryptocurrencies, and they labeled it directly as a pyramid scheme, and she was found guilty for that and fined, over $1 million. But the thing is that crypto is not an alternate to the dollar. It is a pyramid scheme. It is a gamble. However much money people put into it and however many people invest means there's more money getting pushed into it. That means the millionaires that initially invest have their investments end up being worth so much more money off of these everyday people that can't afford to lose their disposable income that are investing in it because they're sold a dream that you can get rich really quick. That's really what we're dealing with here. And I'm sure that Tucker Carlson is in cahoots with all of the people that are lobbying so that crypto has favorable coverage in the media and the people who are tasked with regulating it. Rashida Tlaib introduced the Stablecoin Act, I think it was over 2 years ago with Rowan Gray, which would have regulated all of this, but the Cassandras of cryptocurrency were very much unheard. And it put us in this exact position we are now, where there's people all over the country who have lost thousands of dollars they couldn't afford to lose.
Super last thing is note the irony of corporate Democrats and Tucker Carlson agreeing that crypto should not be regulated.
Final point. Speaking of the lawsuit, Larry David was also named because he was in the Super Bowl commercial for FTX, so that's something to keep in mind.
No, that's a shame.
It is a shame.
No, it is. I know. No, I like Larry David.
You like Larry.
And I hate that he did that ad. No, it sucks that he did that ad. I like him, I respect him. I wish he hadn't done that. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.